Hey guys, Unexceptional Rounder here, and this is the video that goes with lesson 101. So let's get right into it. I'm going to talk mostly about the pre-flop decisions, and then we'll get into any interesting post-flop stuff that happens, if it does. So what I did is I played for about 40 minutes, and I cut it up into about 15 minutes of play. That way I could get it into a YouTube video. So let's talk about this. So that ace-9, probably should have opened that. If we look at our starting hands, that's a raise. I went ahead and just posted for the sake of the video. I normally wouldn't here with these jacks on the bottom left. I actually thought about folding, but then I realized that this is 2 cent, 5 cent, and the guy's got half a buy-in. So really, there's not a lot of hands that it makes sense for him to do that with. Obviously, there's no hands it makes sense for him to do it with, but if he's doing it, he probably doesn't have aces or kings or queens, because most players just don't play those hands that way. So I kind of thought maybe he has ace king, maybe he has a small pocket pair, something like that. So let's go ahead and get it in. We're probably ahead enough to make some money here. And turns out that we were kind of lucky. He had the best possible hand we could go up against, and we hold. Alright, so obviously we just fold the 9-2. That middle pair, bottom pair is not what we're looking for in that situation. Yeah, the king 7 is going to be a fold. The king 4 is an easy fold. You also notice that I always top my chips back up to a full buy-in. I want to have the largest stack possible, obviously. Here we have king ace, obviously probably going to play it, so what we want to do is pay attention to the other players and how they act and what we think our best play is. So you notice these guys are kind of short stacked. We probably want to get as much money in before the flop as possible, and we're out of position against everyone except for the small blind who just folded. So we're going to bump this up and make it a little bigger than normal by about 1 big blind, so we'll make it 25. And also know that we're fine getting folds here. It's fine to just take down the blinds pre-flop, especially when we're out of position without a made hand. But we do end up getting one caller. We hit our ace. We're not going to mess around. He only has $1 behind, so we're just going to make our a little bit more than pot size, more than half pot bet, and he folds, which is fine. So here with the 9-3, we were in the big blind. We've got top pair, but we're not going to put any more money into this pot. Top pair on 7-8-9 is not very good. We don't have a kicker, so pretty much done. All right, so we jump ahead here. Notice that the 9-jack offsuit, easy fold. A lot of players will see that, see it's kind of connected, feel like they can play it, maybe limp in, see a flop. That's just going to bleed money over time. Here, I don't usually, or I didn't used to do this, but I'm trying to actually click the fold button ahead of time so that it kind of speeds the game up. The software is just really slow, so anything I can do to make the game go a little bit faster here on Bodog, I'll go ahead and do, especially with crappy hands that there's no way I'm going to play. Again, don't get tricked into thinking that, oh, well, I've already put 10 cents in the pot. It's only another 20 to call. You're out of position. You had to put that 10 cents in the pot. It doesn't mean you need to throw away more money. You're just not going to make enough to make those hands worth it, especially those really junky hands like Queen 3 offsuit. Alright, pocket twos here. Again, we just look at our starting hands. We see that pocket twos in early position, looks like we were in early position 2, isn't a hand that we're going to play with, so we just go ahead and fold it. No big deal. Alright, and here we've got Queen Jack offsuit in the small blind. Definitely worth playing if it folds to us, or somebody limps. We're probably going to bump it up and try to take down the blinds, but it ends up, I believe, folding all the way around to us. So small blind but versus big blind. In general, if I don't know much about the guy, I will just open my button range here. Like I said, we're going to get into blind play more later, but in general, opening all your button hands is a pretty good range to open small blind versus big blind. Here again we have ace-6 suited, so already kind of thinking, alright, if it gets to us, we'll raise. Let's see what everyone else does, and we end up with 2 limpers. Now, like I said, some people, yeah, you might worry that the guy's limp raising or trying to be tricky, but until somebody proves that they're doing that, I don't worry about it too much. So I go ahead, bump it up to 5 times the big blind, and put in a raise. A lot of times I would expect to just take down the blinds, which is fine. That's not a problem at all. And then if I do get 1 or 2 callers, we can play post flop because we have position. So it's actually a pretty good flop for us. We've got 1 high card and 2 low cards. They are suited, so there's a flush draw out there. Really not much else for draws, except for like a gut shot. 10 Jack has a gut shot here. So it's a pretty good spot for a continuation bet. We'll bet a little bit more than half the pot, sort of standard, and a lot of times we'll take it down. Just keep in mind we're not betting because we have the 6. That's not the reason we're betting here. We do get 1 caller. It's the small blind. I'm not terribly concerned about his call. There's draws out there. There's middle pairs, 8, 9, stuff like that. There's such a wide range of hands that he could call once with that I feel pretty confident firing another bet here. I think a good majority of the time he is just calling with such a wide range that when the turn comes, he'll shut down unless he really has a good piece of the board. Something else that's important is not to be results oriented when you play. If he had called and say he had king 10 and he called and then we checked it down, just because he had king 10 doesn't make it a bad play. And just because he folded doesn't make it a good play. We just sort of have to evaluate the decisions. And watching the hand again, his range is just very, very wide on the flop. He can call with so many hands. The Jack isn't a really great card to barrel, but it's good enough that it's not going to improve all the hands he's calling with. So here we've got 5s, and I actually do decide to it looks like I just decided to limp because it's multi-way. I've got position, and when you have position, that's kind of the situation where you can actually make a lot of money if you hit a set. So I kind of decide to, instead of raising with the pocket pair, I go ahead and limp. Sometimes I would raise there. I just kind of wanted to demonstrate that it's fine to mix up your play in spots like that. Now, what I didn't do is I didn't limp with a hand that I normally wouldn't have played. I took, a hand that was a good raising hand, and because there were a few people in the pot, I decided to go ahead and limp behind with position. If I were out of position there, I would have been much more likely to raise it up. Here we got the ace-king. We get a 6-6-9 board, which is actually pretty dry. You got to think about what they can call with. What did this guy get in here, flat call with? He's going to have a lot of high cards. He's going to have a lot of cards that just completely miss that board. So some people would say, well, it's not a good board to c-bet because it's kind of low middle cards, but generally I just go ahead and fire. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit more with one of the other rules that was in the 7 steps to no limit hold'em, which was pull the trigger. So it's another thing to keep in mind. Sometimes you just have to pull the trigger and not really worry about it. Yeah, so here, we get in obviously on the big blind, middle pair. We got four-handed, not worth even calling, obviously. It should be obvious that there's no need to stick around when you got two people left to act behind you. Skipping ahead, King 10 suited. This is kind of, one of those pretty hands. Sometimes people will see King 10 suited and think, they can limp and maybe hit a flush or it's worth playing, but it's in early position, it's not worth it. Just go ahead and fold. Eights, obviously, an easy raise. All we had to do was look at our starting hands, and we know that that's a raise, so go ahead, bump it up. Fours, some people would raise the fours from under the gun, but like I said, I'm trying to stick to the hand chart that I showed you guys, so it's a fold. Here, the Jack 9, this is a good opportunity. If this guy had limped, if the button had limped, that might have been a good opportunity to go ahead and see a flop four-handed. That's where those suited connectors can actually, even though we're out of position, it's real cheap. That's the sort of flop that you could limp in or sort of hand that you could limp in to see a flop. Here, same thing with the fours. Big multi-way pot. Go ahead and limp, for 5 more cents. Now, it's important to know how do we make money in this hand? Well, it's 4, 5, 6. It's like six-handed after the flop, so we're not going to make money by bluffing. There's too many players in the pot, and we're probably not going to make money on top pair. So once we miss our set, we just go ahead and fold. It's important, again, to know when I call with my fours here, I'm looking for a set. I'm not looking for top pair. And we would have hit it, but oh well. Here's a great opportunity to raise it up with the Jack 10 suited. It's a good hand. It plays fine multi-way, but we got 3 limpers, and it's a very easy raise on the button. And we ended up taking it down, which is great because if you think about it, we probably didn't have the best hand. Somebody probably had something higher than a jack. Ace jack here in the lower right. Initially we see that we got a guy posting, and as long as nobody else raises in front of us, we can pretty much plan on raising ourselves. So finally gets to us. We can see how slow this software can be sometimes, but we do have the poster, and then we have one more limper, so we're going to go ahead and just make our kind of standard raise. Raise it up 3 times plus 1 for each limper. And again, I know in the lesson I said 3.5 times big blind. That's fine if you can definitely put in the 3.5 times, but just because I was playing 4 tables, and it was kind of a pain to type the numbers in. I just sort of went with the numbers that got closest. And again here, same thing. Some people say, well, that hits a lot of their limping range. Well, it may not, but I'll cross that bridge when they call. So again, my default is just fire continuation bet, and it seems to work enough that it's profitable. Again, you just sort of have to pull the trigger a lot of the time. Alright, well, that's going to do it for the actual play part of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, if you have questions about any of the play, please post it in the comments. Have a good day.